What's up guys, it's John here at Daddy Directive, and today we are going to talk about poo. No, not that poo, we're talking about the smelly kind. Yes, I'm going to be talking about everything from your baby's very first poop to how often they should be pooping and what each of the colors of those poop mean. As well as when should you contact the pediatrician when you notice certain things. But before we move on to that, let's hit that like button so you can help with the YouTube algorithm for this video. And if you don't, it will just make it for a very crappy day for me. Let's get right to it. So when it comes to the baby's very first poop, it's called the meconium. And ready to be surprised if you didn't expect this, because the poop will look nothing like the regular poop. It's going to look like a green, black, almost tar-like poop. Don't worry, it is perfectly normal. It's actually a good thing that when they do let out the meconium, because it shows that their bowel movement is happening properly. So you'd expect to see this within the first 24 hours from the birth. On day 1 and 2, the poop will look like still very much black and tarish. By the time it goes to day 3, it will start to turn a little bit more green. And from day 4 and 5, it will start to exhibit a little bit more of a yellow color. You'll also notice by the time it gets to about day 5 or 6 that the color of the poop tends to resemble a little bit more like mustard, with like a little bit of mustard seeds in it. Those mustard seed looking things are actually fat from the breast milk that they take in, and the baby will just absorb what is needed and let out the rest. If the baby is breastfed, the poop will be a lot more watery compared to the baby who are formula fed. Formula fed baby will have a little bit of a less watery poop that ranges in color from pale yellow all the way to brown. So how often should your newborn baby poop? Well, they should poop for every day of their life. That means on day 1, they'll poop once. Day 2, they'll poop twice. Day 3, they'll poop 3 times. All the way up to day 5. And after that, they'll just settle down to a number. So don't worry, they're not going to go to day 30 and start pooping 30 times, because that just wouldn't be good. And after about 6 weeks, you can stop counting the number of poops that your baby goes. But personally, I kept on counting for quite a long time, just to give me a sense of a peace of mind to know when was the last time that my baby went to poop. When it comes to formula-fed babies, after about 6 weeks, they will poop about 3 or 4 times a day. And it's not uncommon that some babies will go 3 or 4 days without pooping. But if they still haven't pooped after 5 days, you should contact the pediatrician. And if they do go after 3 or 4 days, and if the stool is relatively soft, with them having not too much struggle when having a bowel movement, then typically you don't have anything to worry about too much. And sometimes with new parents, they ask the doctor, Doctor, when my baby is having a movement, she grunts and grimaces. Is that normal? Well, actually, it's quite normal initially, because at the early stages of their life, they don't have the muscles or coordination to pass even a soft stool. Now, if they're doing that after they're like 4 or 5 months old, that's something to be worried about. But at the very beginning, don't worry that if your newborn baby is kind of grunting and making a bit of a grimace every time they have a bowel movement, especially if the stool itself is soft, you don't have to worry. They're not having trouble with anything. So when it comes to the color of the poops, let's start from the very beginning. The meconium, which is the very first poop that the baby has, will be black with a bit of a greenish tint that is very much tar-like. As few days pass, for breastfed babies, it will turn into more like a mustard colored poop, which tends to be a little bit more watery. Compared to babies who are formula fed, they tend to have poops that ranges from anything from yellow to brown that has a little bit of a thicker texture. Once the baby is introduced to a solid food from about 6 months on, their poop tends to go a little bit more brown and a little less watery too. And once the baby are introduced to solid food, their poops start to resemble a little bit more like the adult poop. Not only do they look a little bit more like an adult poop, they will start to smell a lot more too. So be prepared. If the poop is green and watery, it most likely means that your baby is having a diarrhea. In this case, contact the pediatrician, especially if the diarrhea is accompanied by either fever or vomiting. If the poop tends to be green and a little bit more slimy rather than watery, it's possible that your baby is teething and swallowing a lot of the drool. Those drools and mucus don't actually get digested and gets passed down to the bowel movement. If the baby is having a brown and much hard and dried poop, the baby is having a constipation. But you want to check with your pediatrician to make sure that it is constipation. So when it comes to the color of the poop, there are mainly 3 colors that you should be worried about and should contact your doctor immediately. But before we move on to that, you have to be aware that once the baby moves on to solid food, the type of food that they eat will be reflected on the poop as well. Now, one of the colors that you should be watching out for is red. But if your baby ate a whole bunch of beet the day before, and if the poop is red, don't panic because it could be just simply the color of the food. But having said that, let's talk about the 3 colors that could indicate some serious underlying issues. Then the first one is red. A reason for a red poop for a breastfed baby, it could be due to a cracked nipple, and they swallow the blood from the nipple and that's being passed down into the poop. Another reason is that if the baby is constipated, there could be tears when they are passing the bowel movement, and that could end up with a red poop. A third option could be the allergy to milk, and that could be either the formula or the breast milk. If it's a breast milk, it's possible that what the mother ate could be a food that the baby is allergic to. If it's a formula, you may want to switch to more of a hypoallergenic formula. And if you want to find out more about that, I have made a video and you can check it out using the link over here. And the last possibility for a red poop is that the baby has a bacterial infection. This you can check on your own. You have to check with your pediatrician. The second color that you should be worried about is if the baby that is more than 3 or 4 months old are passing a very thick black poop, because that could indicate bleeding within the digestive tract, which needs to be treated immediately. So contact your pediatrician. The third color that would be of a concern is a chalky white poop. This could indicate a possible liver problem, so you should contact the doctor. But it is also possible that the baby is allergic to the milk as well. So other than the 3 colors that you should be contacting your pediatrician with, let me give you a rundown of other possible instances where you should contact your pediatrician when it comes to your baby's poop. If the baby is breastfed and hasn't had a bowel movement in 3 days, and the baby is formula fed and hasn't had a bowel movement in 5 days, if the baby is having a diarrhea accompanied with fever and vomiting, if the baby is constipated, and obviously if the baby is showing any of the 3 colors that I mentioned before, white, red, and black. If you're not 100% sure of the color of the poop, actually take a picture of the poop and send it to the doctor and ask for their advice. Guys, I hope you found that information useful. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. I post on Mondays and Thursdays with the hopes that I can share this information that will be helpful to parents and expecting parents out there. As always, thank you for watching and happy parenting.